It is my information, Mr. Speaker, that the department has not taken up this plan, has not taken up a plan of action to advance women in the workplace. In fact, that the department has no plan to give advanced management training. My question to the minister is, why not? Why doesn't a department that has more females than any other have a plan of action, a good plan of action started by the Minister of Labour?
Mr. Speaker, I can assure the Leader of the Liberal Party that I'm working very closely with the Minister of Labour to implement the kinds of progressive and forthright recommendations that she's bringing forward, and we'll continue to work together.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister has again deflected giving an answer. My next question, my final question, is to the Premier. Mr. Premier, we have a good plan initiated by the Minister of Labour, a plan that Albertans expected that every government department would take up, a plan that hasn't been taken up by a department that has more females than any other department. Women need this advanced training, management training. Will the Premier commit to reviewing this matter and getting all departments on side so that women can get equality in the workforce?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'll certainly commit to review the matter, yes, and I'm pleased the honourable member raised it, but I should draw to his attention that he did not get the correct interpretation from the minister's answer. The minister said he was working with the Minister of Labour in implementing the plan. So if the honourable member for Edmonton Glengarry wants me to review it again, I certainly will. But he should listen to the answer to his question.
Innisfail. Thank you, Edmonton Hoyt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question today is to the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs. Alberta insurance policies have long set two different rates, one for men and one for women. Yesterday, the Court of Queen's Bench ruled in favour of the Human Rights Commission judgment that insurance rate should not be based on gender. Can the Minister indicate if he is willing to direct the industry to comply with that judgment?
Mr. Speaker, with respect to the judgment yesterday, the insurance industry would be required to comply with the judgment within 12 months after all appeals are expanded. They do have the right of appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada. We have to give them that period of time to determine whether or not that appeal will take place. If not, under the request made by the Automobile Insurance Board to the court, there will be 12 months for the industry to comply with the court judgment.
In order to ensure that industry remains viable and the premiums to my constituents and all Albertans remain at a reasonable level, in the midst of these changes, what steps is the Minister taking to examine alternatives to the Alberta motoring public?
Mr. Speaker, with respect to the question itself, there's no doubt that changes such as that the court suggests yesterday and other losses in the industry, increase in claims by Albertans, do necessitate a look at our overall system. We've asked the Automobile Insurance Board to consider what alternatives there are in terms of coverage, in terms of the systems, no fault and tort, and any other aspects that they can recommend with respect to either lowering accident rates or improving the automobile insurance system. So the short answer to the question is that we expect within the next couple of months a report from that board which will identify some options for us. We'll then look forward to discussing those options with the industry and the Alberta public before determining if significant changes should be made to our insurance system.
Edmonton Strathcona, followed by Edmonton Goldbar.
Mr. Speaker, my question is also for the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs and also deals with the recent decision that gender-based automobile insurance premiums are discriminatory, the differentials between them. It seems clear that the government is bent on putting the profits of insurance companies ahead of the rights of the Albertans, and my question to the Minister of Corporate and Consumer Affairs is that since the practice of charging gender-differentiated premiums will now have to be abandoned, subject to the appeal mechanism outlined by the Minister, does the Minister plan to take steps to ensure that the insurance companies don't merely jack up the rates of young females to the levels paid by young males?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member's preamble is totally inaccurate. This government has worked with the industry and with consumers to ensure that we have an insurance system which is second to none in the country. Premiums paid in Alberta are among the lowest in the nation, and the coverage is as good as others can expect to obtain in the country. In terms of the question he asked, however, clearly if insurance rates have to be reduced for male drivers under the age of 25, the costs must be recovered in some other way, so the rate structures will likely have to be adjusted. The insurance companies will have to consider what their costs are and how they will determine that particular rate structure. It won't be an easy adjustment for the companies. It won't be an easy adjustment for all consumers.
Mr. Speaker, the public automobile insurance regime has proven itself to have a lower overhead and hence a lower cost to the consumer, as well as fair prices governed by the driver's record. Will the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs undertake to put aside his ideological bias and establish a public insurance plan in this province, or at the very least provide Albertans with a detailed explanation of his reasons for not doing so?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member's information is directly opposite to the information that we've received with respect to public automobile insurance versus the system we have in Alberta. I will say again, the rates in Alberta for comparable rates elsewhere stand very favorably, and so does the insurance coverage that is received by Albertans. There's no question that we will have to evaluate our system overall, but I have not yet seen any evidence to suggest that the public automobile insurance system would be preferable for the driving public in the province of Alberta. And nonetheless, we will be looking at options, and we will be reporting back on those options once the report has been concluded.
Edmonton Goldbar.
Mr. Speaker, for several months now, the government has declined to release the Government Commission's Goldstein report on wage differential between community agencies and government departments. Now, having read the report, Mr. Speaker, I'm not surprised the government wanted to keep it under wraps. One concludes that the government believes a certain salary has to be paid to achieve quality of standards in the public service, yet when it comes to contracting the same work to community agencies, the government thinks it can get away with paying the staff up to 50% less. My questions, Mr. Speaker, are to the Minister of Family and Social Services. If the Minister believes that a certain level of work in the public service requires a certain level of salary, why doesn't this rationale extend to the contracted community agencies that are picking up more and more of the department's responsibilities?
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me first of all say that we work very closely with community agencies across this province, and we value very much the tremendous contribution that they're making to Alberta and to the Alberta way of life. As it comes to specific salary negotiations, Mr. Speaker, those are something that are negotiated between the agencies and the employees themselves, and are not something that I determine or that I negotiate.
Well, Mr. Speaker, agencies are fearful for their survival and for the clientele. Mr. Speaker, does the Minister then not agree that without wage equity for community agencies, this situation is leading to the potential for less than quality support for citizens who are the most vulnerable in our communities?
Well, Mr. Speaker, again, I would want to make the point that the services and the expertise that is being provided through this process is second to none. We get some very dedicated, committed volunteers that are doing outstanding work throughout this province. As it relates to the discrepancy, Mr. Speaker, I do have some concerns. I think that the wage differential is higher than we would like it to be. We're taking some steps, Mr. Speaker, to address that. This year, as the member knows, there's provisions for a 6% increase in community funding at a time of restraint. We hope through that process, Mr. Speaker, to be able to negotiate new contracts that will offer anywhere from 4 to 8% increases. 8% obviously in the acute situations, 4% where it's less acute, recognizing, Mr. Speaker, that in some instances, at the end of a year, some of our community agencies actually have surpluses. And I recognize that that's certainly not the norm, nor anywhere near it. But, Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to work hand in hand with community agencies to see if we can't reduce the wage differential that is there, but recognizing, Mr. Speaker, that we're not suggesting that it should be matched dollar for dollar either.
Wainwright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a lot of happy news in the construction industry these days. Alberta Construction Association representatives say Northern Alberta is the #1 spot in Canada to be for construction this year. Alberta projects will spark over $1 billion in growth, providing more than 1,300 new jobs. My question is to the Minister of Career Development and Employment. Given we have 7.7% unemployment and many able-bodied Albertans on social assistance, what is your department doing to encouraging these Albertans to take advantage of these new jobs?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's not very often I would accept as a fact a statement made or printed through the media, but in this case I'd like to pay my compliments. My compliments both to the media for their accuracy reporting and the Alberta Construction Association. But the honourable member asked a specific question, Mr. Speaker, and I wanted to indicate under the labour market strategies in specific areas as it relates to the social assistance programs that our department's involved in an employment alternatives program for some 3,500,000, employment preparation services for over 11 million, and then enhanced employment skills for 1.6 million. Mr. Speaker, in all, we're looking at some $16 million plus in those programs alone, specifically designed for Albertans and Albertans only. But, Mr. Speaker, just a little follow-up with regards to the item. I just want to show that it is, in fact, following with what we said, we have a program in place and a plan in place working. I refer back to February 15th, the news release, that in it said, our economic performance, in spite of current national economic difficulties, is clear evidence that the provincial government's investment in petroleum, chemical, and forestry projects in northern Alberta are having a positive impact on our economy. Mr. Speaker, just positive proof that the government's economic diversification plan is working.
My supplementary, will these Alberta residents have first chance at available jobs over those immigrating into Alberta from other provinces?
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's a very difficult question to answer. Difficult because, of course, under constitutional, everybody has a right in Canada to work in any province. I would say, though, and state that within our Bill 11 that we just recently introduced, the Alberta Apprenticeship and Industry Training Act, that's going to encourage Albertans to hone their skills. Part of our Alberta Awareness Program as well. Our Skills Alberta, the qualifications that individuals are going to be required are going to be great and important in the forthcoming decade. I can only say to the honourable member, encourage him within his constituency as well, to encourage them all to apply themselves in trade areas and, of course, complete their schooling as well.
Edmonton Highlands.
Mr. Speaker, for 4 months or so, the Alberta government was implementing a hidden agenda from a document that they kept in cabinet on seniors programs, Mr. Speaker. And if the opposition New Democrats hadn't gotten a hold of a copy and released it, who knows how far they would have gone by now.
That's right.
Now, earlier today, Mr. Speaker, a small cabinet committee met with representatives of the Society for the Retired and Semi-Retired, members of the Alberta Council on Aging, as well as Lethbridge and Medicine Hat senior organizations. And those seniors came with 2 items on their agenda. Mr. Speaker, the government didn't consult these people before it started implementing its hidden agenda. I'd like to ask the the Associate Minister for Family and Social Services if he heard the message today, that is the request to reverse the cuts that this government implemented over the last few months, and if he's going to act upon it.
First of all, Mr. Speaker, let me clear up the misunderstanding that is being promoted in the prelude to the question. There is no hidden document. There is no secret agenda. I have a number of documents come forward to study the $1.2 billion program that we administer for seniors. The seniors were here at my invitation to meet with several cabinet ministers. We had an excellent discussion, and we have committed ourselves to improving the dialogue between their associations and our group, and I make no apology for that.
Were you listening?
Now, it's real interesting. He says that the minister was the one who initiated the meeting. Well, why invite people if you're not going to listen to them is my question. But Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask, the minister said that he's going to open up communication, that he's interested in consulting. As far as I can see, he doesn't listen to when he asks for consultation. I'd like to ask the Premier a question about this meeting from today. The other agenda on their list was to ask about consultation in a meaningful way. The Premier's bill, the Seniors Advisory Council, doesn't contain any reference to an automatic number of members being seniors. Is the Premier willing to amend his legislation so that seniors, the frontline people, can have representation on this advisory council?
Mr. Speaker, first of all, the first part of the member's question, the Associate Minister of Family and Social Services went to some extent to answer, and then the honourable member has repeated it. But then second, she's referring to a piece of legislation, a bill that's before the House, that's had first and second reading and is now in committee of the whole. If the honourable member is capable of convincing the House of an amendment, then let the honourable member take her best chance at it. I think most people in a legislature in our parliamentary system know that's the way you deal with legislation, and I welcome the honourable member to make that effort.
Thank you. I'm sure the member knows that the question was out of order. Thank you. Edmonton Avonmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the Solicitor General. Mr. Speaker, the tragic indifference shown by a 911 operator and the Calgary police towards a screaming woman's emergency call for help at 1:15 a.m. resulted in her sexual assault in front of her baby by a masked intruder. No police were dispatched because the operator's assumption, I thought it was domestic. In announcing his family violence program last October, the Solicitor General proclaimed a victim of family violence is entitled to the maximum protection from harm and abuse as permitted by law.
Well, member, I'm sorry. I'm sure you can bring the question up in estimates of the department later today. Maybe not a question period tomorrow. Calgary McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Education has done absolutely nothing to lower the dropout rate from our schools. Despite his statement at the ASTA convention in November that he was committed to a 10% decrease this year. He has made a statement that partnerships with business are showing positive results, but these are not to his credit. The credit belongs to business and school boards.
Good intention, no.
And action is needed, we all know that, so that schools can be places where all students want to be. To the Minister of Education, does the Minister intend to leave action to the school board and the federal government, and the federal government, despite the fact that education is a provincial matter?
Why, he's wrong. Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member would check the record, and we've discussed this in the House before, the government has implemented a high-needs school program in Calgary and Edmonton. We fund community schools across this province. We have an integrated occupational program for students whose needs are different than strictly academic students. That program is in place and, in fact, is being expanded to meet more of those students' needs.
Mr. Speaker, I have to share the honourable member's concern that our schools are not the place right now for all of our students, and I'm concerned about that. We've implemented those programs which I've described to her just now, and others in the previous exchanges in this assembly, and we are working with local school boards and with the federal government to try and combat what I consider a very serious problem, in that if students can't get what they need out of high school, then more than likely they're not going to find success beyond school. But for the honourable member to suggest that this government, in cooperation with school boards and with the federal government and other agencies in this community, for her to suggest that we have done nothing, the honourable member is flat out wrong.
Boy, that's right.
Mr. Speaker, none of these initiatives are new since November, when he promised he would decrease the rate 10% further. My second question is, we all know that high-risk students can be identified in elementary school. Why has the minister not implemented programs to identify these students at an early age and in an early grade?
Because, Mr. Speaker, we have taken an initiative with school boards, with teachers, with school trustees, with superintendents, and teachers across this province to work specifically on the problem that she has identified. And that is high-risk, special needs students. And I welcome the honourable member's question, because this week the Minister of Education in the province of Alberta is hosting a forum on special education, with the focus of that forum being how do we coordinate our programs better? How do we fund special education programs better? And after spending all that money and investing the time of teachers and trustees and departmental people and folks in all of the agencies around this province, how will we know we've done the right job? And those are the three main agenda items for a forum that is going to take place at Mount Royal College in Calgary on Friday and Saturday of this week. And I look forward to reporting to the honourable member in the weeks ahead as to the outcome of that very successful conference, which this government has taken the initiative on in leading and making sure that we get...
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Thank you. At the Baskin Commish, followed by Everton Beverly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question today is to the Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs. There seem to be some concerns that housing for natives in rural Alberta will suffer due to the transfer of funds to help the urban homeless. Mr. Speaker, we all know that this province and this Premier leads this country in providing services to native people, which includes many housing programs. And one example is the Rural Home Assistance Program, which is providing over 1,200 homes to northern native Albertans, granted to the families because the families are lower income. A decent program. My question to the Honourable Minister is, will the Minister outline to this Assembly in detail the status of these programs that are providing housing for natives and other rural Albertans, and include in that any proposed changes?
Mr. Speaker, to the honourable member, the native home programs that we have in this province are very progressive and aggressive in their place in the residential model of this province. Two programs have been initiated directly by the province of Alberta, and over a number of years have been very, very successful. These are programs that do not exist in some of the other provinces. The Rural Emergency Home Program, of which there are 1,200 units, where native families need homes on a very short notice. They are provided these types of accommodation so they can use it as transitional homes so that they can move into permanent homes at a later date. And that's been a very effective program. Under the Rural Home Assistance Program, which has some 1,200 units, this program is continuing as it did in 1990-91. It is also providing more stable types of homes for our native programs, our native people. With Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, we have a program by which we work together, the Rural and Native Housing Program, and Mr. Speaker, that program is continuing as well. into this fiscal year of 1991-92. Under that program, we have built some 1,800 units, and they are very accommodating to the native people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My supplement to the Minister, the Honourable Minister, is will the Honourable Minister give some assurance to this Assembly that the criteria for the income criteria for the Rural Native Housing Programme be reviewed in the near future? Because if we target to the right people and provide lower subsidies, it means that we can build more homes for low-income families.
Mr. Speaker, yes, that is an item of concern. We're doing a review of the whole housing portfolio of the Department of Municipal Affairs, and one of the items that will be in that review is the income level of the recipients of the various residential programs that are made available for natives.
Edmonton Beverly, followed by Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing as well. The Minister yesterday announced, and his colleagues, that finally they've started initiatives to provide housing in inner cities, which is of course very necessary, and although I submit inadequate to meet the immediate needs of the homeless in Alberta. But Mr. Speaker, behind the cautious optimism of housing advocates is the serious concern that the commitments to housing is only a shell game. While the Minister was able to find $15 million for inner-city housing, he did so by robbing the $14 million from the rural and native housing programs of his department. My question to the Minister, Mr. Speaker, is how can the Minister say that social housing is a priority for this government when it has cut the needs from one needy group to help another?
Mr. Speaker, I can understand the question that the honourable member raises, and 1 or 2 days ago I raised the fact that often my research in this legislature, when I sat on that side of the House, was from the daily papers. And often I found, as even a member of the opposition, that research was based on false information, and I was misled in the House, and again we find that here today. So when I'm here on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, and responsible to try and put some truth in the articles that often emanate from our learned colleagues that sit in the upper gallery, I want to make it very clear that, and the article that was written by Mr. David Clemenhaga of the Calgary Herald has more than one inaccuracy, and it is my intent to address those by direct letter to that author. But I want to say this to the honourable member, and I would have the same concern as the honourable member if we were taking away from one group and giving to another. The funds that were made available for the announcements yesterday with regards to the inner city of Calgary and Edmonton were funds that were put into a list of priorities, and other programs, a whole group of programs that are the responsibility of municipal affairs, housing, were all balanced in that list of priorities. And some of the other programs, senior citizens lodges, self-contained, and others, were in that mix, and that's where the funds came from a priority list, Mr. Speaker.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the facts are in fact in the budget just presented by the Treasurer earlier this year. The so-called commitment to housing is hollow, Mr. Speaker. There is less money going to social housing this year than last, and a number of units provided is being cut by more than 1,300 units. What possible jurisdiction or justification does the Minister have for cutting housing programs when the need is so great?
Mr. Speaker, that again is a very good question and observation which has some accuracy to it, in that we did reduce the number of dollars available for the housing budget. What was the reason? There is a very good reason, two of them. Number one, the object of the government was to balance the budget. Number two, we placed a very high priority on two programs of this government, health care and education, in order to provide needed benefits in continued benefits to senior citizens and other needy people in this province, we had to move dollars from one area to another and reallocate in the most responsible way that we could. Some of those dollars maintained excellent quality health care facilities and programs for senior citizens. That's where they went. There was not a loss of the dollars, just a proper priority reallocation, and I think that should be clear in this legislature.
Westlock Sturgeon, followed by Edmonton Centre. Order.
Mr. Speaker, my question's to the Minister of Parks and Recreation. Mr. Speaker, this government continues to show its lack of competency and absolute lack of knowledge of any business management by continuing to leave the wildlife park closed in the high season here just north of town, costing the taxpayers about $40,000 to $50,000 a month. For the summer, maybe as high as $250,000. Could the minister explain, because of the fact that we already have full staff out there to look after the animals, all the personnel's in place, there's no reason at all to have the gates closed, why the minister isn't taking this opportunity of realizing $40,000 to $50,000 a month for the taxpayers rather than sulking over there in his field?
Mr. Speaker, the foundation that's running the Alberta Wildlife Park is at the present time looking at proposals for the option of takeover of this park, and I think that in due respect to their process, which is ending on May the 10th, when the proposal should be in, that I'll reserve comment on the other discussion.
Mr. Speaker, there seems to be many that want the animals on the farm, but they don't want the people or the government appointees to the foundation. That seems to be the problem. Could the minister tell us that he will announce to this legislature before May 12th, because the Wildlife Foundation has said they're going to take till the end of the month? Who's right, the minister or the foundation?
Under legislation, the foundation runs the Alberta Wildlife Park. The legislation was set up in 1985, and those business arrangements that the foundation are looking at for the future of this park, and preferably an Alberta solution, will be left to the foundation, and I'll wait their comments after they look at the proposals.
Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are well over 60,000 insulin-requiring diabetics in Alberta, whose disease, as the Minister of Health knows, can best be managed by daily testing and monitoring of the levels of sugar in their blood. And yet the cost to diabetics, many of them seniors in this province, for blood testing can be well over $750 a year that they have to pay out of their own pocket. Will the Minister of Health not admit that in the current negotiations with the Canadian Diabetes Association Alberta Division, that her department is offering a package which is far less than this full coverage which both type 1 and type 2 diabetics need, and hence leaves many of them, including seniors who are diabetics, still having to pay out of pocket for the full cost of blood testing strips, syringes, and other services that they desperately need?
Mr. Speaker, one of the adjustments to the AIDS to Daily Living program will now see us, through contract with the Canadian Diabetic Association and their Alberta offices, an ability to deliver diabetic supplies and services that were not available either to seniors or to the general population for the treatment of diabetes. We are working very hard, and will continue to do so, with the Diabetic Association to come in on their ability to purchase at a better rate than probably most other agencies, including government, can purchase, to ensure that we're getting the diabetic supplies that are the most contemporary possible. And I believe within that contract structure, we will create the needed partnership to ensure that the issue of diabetes is dealt with in the community and exhausted within the community before institutional requirement is deemed necessary.
Well, I don't think that's good enough, Mr. Speaker. As the Minister dodged the question whether there's going to be full access to coverage for both type 1 and type 2 diabetics, knowing as she does that the preventative costs of covering the needs of diabetics now will save thousands of dollars in treatment costs in the future. So I want to ask her again, given that, from what I hear, that even Blue Cross, which has historically covered some costs of testing for seniors and other diabetics, will soon withdraw that coverage, does the Minister not realize now how much added pressure that puts on diabetics
to have access to the full access to the health supplies necessary for them to manage all the aspects of their disease.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the management of the disease is something that the honourable member, with all due respect, does not understand anywhere near as well as the Canadian Diabetic Association does. One of the things that we have done very deliberately is to work as a health department with Canadian Diabetic Services, with Blue Cross, in order to ensure that we are managing this disease with the understanding that diabetics are a prime example of how we can deal with a disease and an affliction within the community as opposed to in the institution. I believe the way that we're proceeding is in the best interest of all, including all age groups and other diabetics and all disease groups in the province. And we will continue to ensure that that service is enhanced as it is this year under the new Aids to Daily Living program.
Yep. Orders of the day, might we revert briefly to the introduction of special guests? Opposed? Carried.